Got the shades on this Saturday night. The shades are on. It is Saturday, March the, what is it? I can't see now. March the 11th. That's what it is. March the 11th, 2023, just after 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. It's Scream 6 weekend. Scream 6 is released this weekend. Have you seen it? Don't spoil it. Don't be a fucking idiot and spoil it. Think. Most of you guys are amazing, but there's always that one in the crowd that's like, hey, did you guys? It's opening weekend. It's opening weekend. That's right. Have I seen it? No, I haven't seen it. But I know all about it. You know, I'm not emotionally attached to the Scream franchise, so I know what happens in it. I know who the killers are. I know how it goes. I know I've talked to people. I've watched the spoiler reviews. It doesn't ruin the experience for me because I'm not emotionally invested and attached into the Scream franchise in the same ways that I am, say, like, you know, Halloween or Indiana Jones or, you know, I don't know, when Star Wars was good. You know, that kind of thing. Then I'd be like, yeah. But, you know, with Scream, I'm like, it doesn't ruin it for me. Really, it doesn't. I know you might think, yeah, but it's a whodunit. So if you know who did it, how can you go, yeah, no, but it's the journey. It's just me. Like, there are people that are like me that can know, and it really doesn't. I'll be totally honest with you. It doesn't matter. But that's me. That's me. That might not be you, but that's me. But I do recognize that there are a lot of Scream fans that watch me. I mean, die hard. Like, I didn't realize how many crazy Scream fans there are out there until I started talking about Scream 6, really. I mean, we've talked about Scream on the channel before. I don't know if it's because Halloween is over and people just need something to pour their heart into. I don't know. But when I do a Scream video or a Scream stream, has anybody come up with that yet? If nobody has, my invoice is in the mail. It's one of the, I'm sure somebody's got, there's got to be a show out there called the Scream Stream. Even if it was just a horror show, it's got to be out there somewhere. If not, like I said, residuals, baby. But yeah, so I've always been so surprised at how many diehard Scream fans watch. You know, like I said, I mean, people are crazy for Scream. I have said this countless times in the channel, and I will continue to say it. I am a casual Scream fan. So what does that mean? Well, that can mean different things for different people. For me, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. You know, I like Scream. I mean, it's fine. I like the first one. I mean, the first one's a classic. Came out when I was 17 years old. You know, I like that first one. The second, I don't dislike any of the sequels, even 3. I don't like 3. I think 3's probably, you know, the weakest. But I don't dislike anything. By all accounts, the things I'm hearing, although there are mixed reviews in terms of Scream 6, even the people that didn't like it, you know, say that it's this, that, and the other. It's fine. So I don't think Scream, even with Scream 6, I don't think it's yet to have its Halloween resurrection, which is good. And 6 films in, that's good. Could be the structure of the franchise as well. I mean, basically every movie's a different story for all intents and purposes. I mean, it does connect to the larger universe, of course, but every movie's a different killer who they have different motives. And sure, it might connect canonically to, but I mean, it has a beginning, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just was so surprised. I didn't realize how many crazy, like, scream, yeah, scream, woo! I'm like, holy shit. Like, beating down the door, scream, 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 scream. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize. I didn't realize. But that's cool, though. That's cool. That's cool. I think that's cool. So, no, I have not seen Scream 6. I do know what happens. I know a lot about the spoilers because I've watched the spoiler reviews. I've talked to people who've seen it. They've told me all about it. And I'm like, cool, okay, cool. I will watch it and see how I feel about it. Again, Scream is not one of those movies that I'm emotionally invested in, so I can know about what happens, and it really doesn't ruin the movie for me. If that might be difficult for some people to understand, if you're like, I don't get it. How could you? But if you're like me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're that you know exactly, you're like, yeah, no, I get it. Totally, Yep, totally. So I will see it, but I haven't seen it yet. But I do know that it is getting, I would say it's getting positive reviews. I mean, there are people in the horror space, and there are certain people, obviously, that are not that haven't liked it for whatever reason, a multitude of reasons. But you look at Rotten Tomatoes, and you look at the verified audience score, and even I mean it's people like it, which is good. That's good. It's good for horror. Anytime a horror movie can be successful in a horror franchise, in a long running horror franchise, it's a good thing. It's good for horror. It's good for movies. It's good for the box office. So that's good. I'm happy about that. But yeah. Let me see here. Super chat from Raymond M sends in $2. Thanks, Raymond. Says, dude, Scream 6 was so insane. You gotta see it. I will see it. I probably won't feel the same way you do, though. Not because, I mean, I'm really glad that you thought, but again, I'm not like, scream, yeah! I couldn't care less. But I will watch it, and I have a feeling that I will watch it and be like, it's fine. It was a Scream movie, Yes, it was more intense, that more blood. Yeah, okay, but it was a Scream. That's how I have a feeling I'm going to feel. It's usually how I feel with every Scream movie. Every Scream movie since the original, I've been like, yeah, it's fine. It was a Scream movie. So it's even 5. I was like, well, it's fine, it's a Scream movie. And everything I'm hearing about, no, he's more intense. I'm okay, yeah, that's good, Yeah. But is it a Scream movie? Yeah, it's a Scream movie. I'm like, okay, all right, well, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, if I watch Scream 6 and go, yeah, Scream, that's fine, that's good. I mean, it's much better than me going, oh, here it is, Scream Resurrection. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine, right? So we'll see, though. We'll see. I am looking forward to seeing it soon at some point. We shall see what happens. It's Saturday night, folks. It's Saturday freaking night. It's Saturday night. How are you all doing? What's new in your world? It's Me, Billy, Chapter 2, Indiegogo campaign, May the 1st. Start putting little pennies into your piggy bank now as we speak. We're going to need all your help. Bruce and I have been working hard behind the scenes over these last number of weeks, breaking down the budget, going over everything that we're going to need, reaching out, starting some more casting, building the Indiegogo campaign. The Indiegogo campaign for It's Me, Billy, Chapter 2 is being built as we speak. So that's exciting. We're working on that. It's very exciting. We're very excited to, obviously, the script is done. That's good. So there's lots behind the scenes happenings in regards to chapter 2, and we're going to be counting on all of you again to help make it possible. So save the date, mark it on your calendar. Indiegogo campaign, crowdfunding campaign for It's Me Billy chapter 2, May the 1st. Now, this should go without saying, but not everybody knows what Indiegogo is. I have had some people reach out to me saying, can't wait to see the movie on May the 1st. So for those of you that may not know, because there have been a couple of people that have thought that I've been advertising that the movie is coming May the 1st. No, the movie's not coming May the 1st. We need to raise the money in order to be able to make the movie. So Indiegogo is like Kickstarter, right? It's a crowdfunding campaign, a crowdfunding website. So we launch our campaign on May the 1st. And if we can raise the money that we need, then we will be able to go and make the movie. So technically, It's Me Billy chapter 2 hasn't been greenlit yet. It only gets greenlit when we're able to raise our production budget. And if we're able to raise our production budget, then we go into pre-production. So technically, it's still in development, technically. So there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees, especially with crowdfunding. you know what I mean? You just never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates. So yeah. So May the 1st, mark it on your calendars, throw those quarters. Anytime you get a quarter or a buck or whatever, just kind of put it away in a sock drawer or something, you know what I mean? And start saving, because we're gonna have some good perks, some good things on there. You know, the posters, the Blu-rays, you know, a chance to come on Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, a chance to come on McRae Live, all sorts of good stuff that's going to be on the campaign. So we're very excited about it. Let me see. There was only one super chat that came in so far, right? I think there's only one that came in, if I'm not mistaken. I believe so. Anyway, I believe so. Matthew Moody says, "Hey Dave, just want to ask if you've seen Scream 6 yet?" Nope, I have not seen Scream 6 yet. We've been talking about it though. For the vast majority of the opening of the show, we were talking about it. So, but I have not seen it yet. But I know all about it. I know what happens. I know the reveals. I know all about it. Kenneth DeLapp says, "Don't get me wrong, love Metallica. Just know what to expect, and they deliver." Must be talking to somebody else. I'm not a big Metallica fan myself, but hey, if you are, that's all that matters. Let's see here. Christopher Rogerio, am I saying that right? Rogerio says, "What's the budget needed approximately?" It's a good question. So I'm assuming you're meaning chapter 2. It's Me, Billy. So whenever you break down, whenever you're going to crowdfund, obviously you should, at the very least, be asking for a budget. It's not an arbitrary number, right? So, you don't just sit there and think, I think we're going to need this, so let's ask for that. No, you need to break it down. So you draw up a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet and you start breaking down everything from cast to crew to props to, production insurance to equipment rentals to truck rentals to location rentals to permits to craft services to accommodations it costs a lot to make a movie. And so we've started the process of doing that. Our production budget for chapter 1 was 60,000 Canadian, so about 48,000 US. We achieved it. We raised 64,000, which was fantastic. This production budget is probably, again, we're not at an exact number yet, but we're probably going to be in and around the 80 to 90,000 Canadian, which is probably about 65,000 US for chapter 2. And there's a variety of reasons for that. Obviously, just, the prices in the world have gone up, right? So things are more expensive, right? Actors' salaries go up, things like that. And insurance goes up and the price of everything has gone up, right? So we obviously have to factor that in as well. So probably somewhere around there, somewhere in that ballpark, 80, 85, somewhere in there is what we're looking at. It could be a bit lower. Could be a bit more. Don't know yet, but that's probably what you're going to see when the campaign. If you're in Canada, you'll see that. If you're in the US, you'll probably see like 60, 65,000, something like that. Because I think it just does the conversion automatically if you're based in the States. So somewhere around there. Jordan Christie sends in a $4.99 super chat. Thanks, Jordan. Says, does Billy Part 2 require it to be filmed in the snow to keep continuity with Part 1 since that was filmed during the snowy weather? Great question. I don't want to give... I'll just say no. I'm going to say no. It's not like... It's Me, Billy Chapter 2 picks up immediately where the first one left off, right? So it's not like it's taking place 2 years later where we have to sort of reestablish the characters, reintroduce the characters, reestablish the timeline, sort of, a lot of establishing shots and getting things set up. It's like Halloween and Halloween 2, right? We just jump right into it. And so most of Chapter 1, apart from the opening of the movie where we're being introduced to the characters and establishing the location and the scenery and all of that, most of the movie takes place inside. So that is a similar situation here because obviously we're jumping right back into it where we left off on the epic cliffhanger. So, but there's a couple of instances where there's a few things we're working on in the script that it may be a situation where we might need some weather, but it's not as reliant as Chapter 1 because we are inside a lot. So I'll just say that. I don't want to give too many details because I don't want to get you thinking into certain spoiler areas. But not as reliant as the first one. Not as reliant. So like there's no establishing shots of like people arriving to the house again and all that kind of stuff, even though it's supposed to take place the same day, same night. It's a Halloween 2 situation, which is cool. But Halloween 2, of course, there's a lot of shots outside, right? Good Real Hunting sends in $1.99 and says, how would you make a Scream movie if you could? How would I make a Scream movie if I could? I don't know, Good Real. I would probably just do what they're doing. There's a clearly defined and clearly established formula for Scream, right? It's a very clear whodunit. I often will refer to the first Friday the 13th as a whodunit, but technically that's not true. It's whodunit-ish. But technically, Friday the 13th Part 1 is not a whodunit, even though I have casually referred to it as one, because we're never introduced to the killer in the movie. So there's never an opportunity for us to guess who the killer is, right? You know what I mean? Where in real whodunits, you're always introduced to the killer at some point in the film. It's usually somebody in the main cast. Now, if Alice had ended up being the killer, well, then it's a whodunit, right? But Pamela Voorhees are like, who the hell is this woman? I've never seen her before, right? So, but it's whodunit-ish in the sense of you don't know who the killer is, and you might think maybe it's somebody that, is there. With Scream, it is a true whodunit because you are always introduced to the killer or killers at some point in the story, and I don't think I would change that. I think maybe you're asking from this point forward, maybe, rather than just doing my own version of it. You know what? I've talked about this on the channel. When I've been doing the Scream streams, let's say, I really want there to be a cliffhanger ending, an ending where where you think that you're going to get your Scooby-Doo moment, right? You think that the ghost face is going to be revealed, but they're not. And it doesn't feel like it doesn't end on a note where you're like, no, it ends on a note where you're like, oh shit, just got real. Like it's a really good thing. Like it feels really good not to know who it is and then carry it over, because in every Scream movie, there's always the Scooby-Doo moment where the mask comes off and the killer takes 10 minutes to explain why they're killing everybody. And that's fine. I mean, that's part of a whodunit formula. But I think it would be cool it feels like it's getting to that moment, but then it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh my God. So Ghostface wins, essentially. They are in control, not wins in the sense that they kill everybody, but they win in the sense that they are clearly in control and everybody is now at the mercy of whoever this ghost face is. And that carries on. I mean, off the top of my head, that's something that I would want to explore. but you got to know where you're going. The trajectory of where you're going has to be clearly defined. You can't just shoehorn that in for the sake of it. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, that's a direction that I would love to take a Scream movie. Mikey Film sends in $2, says, based off chapter 1, I'm excited for chapter 2. Well, thank you, Mikey. We really appreciate it, man. We really appreciate it. We're very excited too. Very excited. It feels, when you're producing a movie at this level, when I say at this level, I don't mean, it's not like a multi-million-dollar film, but it's not, it's a real movie. There's a lot of moving parts to deal with. And it's intimidating, but it's fun. And it's obviously, to be able to jump into this side of the entertainment industry now is exciting for me, right? Because, excuse me, water going down the wrong tubes. As I've said, I mean, for 22 years, I've worked in the entertainment industry, but as a voice actor. And so I've dabbled in film. I went to film school. That's what I wanted to do with my life, is to be a filmmaker. And I've worked on some sets as a PA, and I've got the chance to visit some sets. And when you work in the entertainment industry, if you're in it long enough, I say this a lot, but it's true. If you're in it long enough and you stay in it, because you're having success at it, you will meet all sorts of different kinds of people from different areas of the entertainment industry, right? Whether it's, voice acting, whether it's on camera acting, whether it's producing, whether it's directing, whether it's, the studio executive side, whether it's the post-production facility side, whatever, right? If you're in it long enough, I mean, I've met all sorts of different kinds of people from different areas, right? The music industry as well. But in my 40s now, I really wanted to take a stab on a serious note and produce some, really get my feet wet into making some movies. And that's what It's Me, Billy chapter 1 and 2 are, really. I mean, they are to honor the legacy of Black Christmas, absolutely, where the 2 remakes we think failed miserably, and to, build our portfolios, right? To be able to showcase what we can do, and then move on to original work. And that's the next step. After It's Me, Billy chapter 2, the next project that Bruce and I do will be original. Because now we have a finished narrative piece, professionally done from top to bottom, that we can use as our calling card. And even chapter 1 got us a few meetings with some people, which was great. And those doors are still open. We're still sort of working on some things. So it's really cool to be able to flex these muscles now in my 40s. I wish I could have done it earlier, but that's what I've always wanted to do with my life. That's why I went to film school, was because I wanted to be a filmmaker. So anyway, it's just cool to be able to kind of get into that and learn that. And I just love it. It's intimidating. There's a lot of moving parts. Obviously it's a different area of the entertainment industry. But I love it. And I think having, even though I fell into the voice acting side, I've never stopped being up on the business of movies and maintaining those connections and things like that. So that's helped me, I think, over the years too. And Bruce, of course, who's got tons of connections, which has been fantastic, because he's actually boots on the ground on that side. So anyway, it's cool, man. It's cool. But we're very excited about it. And just hoping we can raise the production budget. Fingers crossed. We're going to be talking about it a lot. We're going to have people on the show. We're just going to start it up again, man. We got to do it. Hey, man, we did it once before. I know we can do it again. I know we can. We're going to do it again for sure. 100%. It sounds like one of those Looney Tunes cars that are running out of gas. It's funny. Super chat comes in from Carrie, who sends in $2. Thanks, Carrie. Says, would you care if Art the Clown talks in Terrifier 3? I would say that, would I care? I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big Terrifier fan. So, and when I say I'm not a fan, I don't mean I hate the movies or anything. I just mean it's not my kind of horror. So, I don't really care either way. Do I think he should talk? No, because I think you've clearly established that he is, although he's a clown, he's very much a mime clown. So I would say no, I wouldn't have him talk. I mean, if Terrifier 3 or 4 ends up being the last one and Damien Leone knows that he's going to go off now, he's set, he signed with WMA, which is, WME, which is William Morris Endeavor, one of the top talent agencies in the world. So Terrifier 2 certainly opened some doors for him, which is fantastic. He's working right now on a horror film with Sam Raimi's production company, which is fantastic. So if he wanted to have maybe Art say something like a line at the end of it all as like his parting sort of thing, that might be kind of funny, you know, but for him to just suddenly be talking, no matter how justified it might be, I don't know. But I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I don't really care. You know, I'm not emotionally invested into the character or the franchise. So I would ask a hardcore Terrifier fan what they think, because they would look at it from a different perspective than I am and be able to, do you know what I mean? But those are my thoughts. And thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Brandon Barry sends in $4.99 and says, Dave, thoughts on Jenna Ortega possibly joking Beetlejuice? Joking? You mean doing Beetlejuice maybe? Okay, so, a similar thing, I guess, with Terrifier in the sense of that I've seen Beetlejuice once years ago. I recognize that it has a very passionate fan base, a very loyal, passionate fan base. I recognize that it is certainly a 1980s, Tim Burton classic for sure. It was one of the movies that helped to propel Michael Keaton to the next level. Winona Ryder, of course, was in it. You have Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin, and I mean, and it's a very Tim Burton surreal style, very stylized, and it's fun. But never in my nearly 44 years of being on this earth, of course, when did it come out? 87? 88? Hey, Google, what year did Beetlejuice come out?
In the United States of America, Beetlejuice came out on March 30th, 1988. People also ask me, How old was Winona Ryder when filming Beetlejuice?
I'm going to say she was...
Hear the answer?
17. Yes!
15. Oh. On the website alexaanswers.amazon.
Okay, all right, stop!
Ryder was just...
Hey, Google! You got to know when to be quiet. It just goes on. So 1988. So, I look at that and I think to myself, well, so in the 35 years since Beetlejuice, I will be honest with you. Never have I, me personally, have I ever thought, I would love to see a Beetlejuice 2. It's never crossed my mind. And I don't dislike the movie. I like the movie. It's fun. But I've never thought it needed what needs it, right? But I never felt like, Beetlejuice 2, yeah. Never. So I don't care whether they ever make one or not. That being said, Jenna Ortega, yeah, it makes sense. When you look at her as Wednesday, when you look at the relationship she's there, built with Tim Burton, Jenna Ortega is the hot thing right now. And not that I'm the only one that called it, but if you go back to an episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit about a year or so ago, my first introduction to Jenna Ortega was in the movie Scream 5. I had never heard of her. I'd never seen her. I know she was on like kids shows and I know it wasn't her first role, and obviously people did know who she was, but I had no idea who she was. And I said on that show, I said on that show several times, I said, I don't know who this girl is, but this girl is going to be a star. And she wasn't quite at that moment. I mean, she was starting to, but she wasn't. I had no idea who she was at all. And I don't know why. It's not like her performance in Scream 5 was amazing, thespian. No, it's just like every other role you see of a young teenage girl. Whatever. It's something about the way she looks. She has a very strong, and I don't mean that she's attractive. Yes, she's attractive, sure. But there's a lot of attractive women on, in movies and on camera. I'm not talking about her attractiveness. That's not what I'm talking about. There's something about her look and this on-screen sort of presence with this look. There's something about her look that I said to Tony on that show. I said, I don't know who this girl is, but she's going to be a star. There's something about her. Watch out for her. And then, of course, as the year went on, we got X, and she was in 666, I think it was, which wasn't very good. But nonetheless, and then, of course, she gets Wednesday and then Scream 6, and now they're talking about, Beetlejuice 2. And so there you go. It didn't surprise me at all because there's something about her. And so I think it makes sense. It makes sense. The only thing is, and Hollywood loves to do this because it's all about making money, of course, is that we don't want Jenna Ortega to outwear her welcome, let's say. We don't want to be oversaturated with Jenna Ortega everywhere. Of course, if you're, a young teenage boy, maybe you don't care and you have pinup posters over it. Is that even a thing anymore? Totally dating myself. But I think it makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense. And I heard rumors that she might be playing Winona Ryder's daughter. And of course, you can see it. She can play she fits perfectly in, and I say this with all due respect to the emos of the world, but Wednesday, with all due respect, is an emo type of character, okay? So you look at Tim Burton's style, you look at, and then she can play that very well. She can play live in that world very well. So I am not, you could probably even cast her in a remake of Edward Scissorhands, right? Right? You see what I'm saying? Right now you're going, yep. If they ever wanted to make or remake Edward Scissorhands, you could cast Jenna Ortega in the Winona Ryder role, couldn't you? You could see it right now. And you're probably thinking, oh, dude, that would be amazing. Exactly. It's 100%. It makes sense. You can see it. I can see it. We all can see it. So I say, why not? And you want to capitalize on her right now. And I say, do it. Do it for sure. And I think she'll do it. And they probably had discussions on the Wednesday set about it. It's probably a foregone conclusion if they're going to be shooting anytime soon. It's probably just starting. I don't know. But yeah, those are my thoughts. It makes sense. She's hot right now. I don't mean in looks. I mean in demand. I know I got to say that because some people, yeah, she's hot right now. She's got that it factor for that type of Tim Burton world. And people love her. I think she's great. I don't know what the longevity of her career is going to be, right? We don't know. In the 90s, you could have thought, you could have said that Sarah Michelle Gellar and Jennifer Love Hewitt are going to go off and be, these incredible actresses for years and decades to come, right? I know it's a different world now, but who knows, right? We could be in the Jenna Ortega assance right now, but if you fast forward 20 years, who knows, right? This business is fickle, it's unforgiving, it's competitive, the competition is fierce, and it's not kind to women and as women age. So it's an unfortunate but real reality of show business because of how women are often, marketed. So, but right now she's young. She's like, what, 20, 19? Jesus. She's got a long career ahead of her, and I could totally see her in Beetlejuice 2, for sure. And I'll watch it. Why not? Robert Thidoff says, Dave, this week here in the U.S. begins the March Madness tourney for both men and women's college hoops. To me, this 3-week tourney is better than the Super Bowl. What is Canada's biggest sporting event? Canada's specific biggest sporting event is probably the Grey Cup, which is Canada's Super Bowl. So in Canada, we have a football league, American football, although the rules are slightly different. But it's the CFL, right? The Canadian Football League. And the CFL is often mocked and made fun of nowadays. But many, many years ago, it was more popular than the NFL years and years ago. It was a very competitive league. Now it's kind of like a college farm league to the NFL, right? If you don't make the NFL, a lot of players come and play in the CFL. In the CFL, it's 3 downs instead of 4 downs. The field is 110 yards instead of 100 yards, and the fields are wider as well. And the balls are bigger. I think we talked about that a few weeks ago. There was a campaign years ago where the CFL was like this marketing campaign, and they were poking fun at the NFL saying, yeah, but our balls are bigger, Anyway. So, but the CFL is, it's a college league, really. Well, and it's, when I say that, it's nowhere near. They don't draw even, sometimes college ball will outdraw the NFL. Sometimes college football in the States will get more people in the stands than even the NFL. So I don't mean college ball in that sense. I just mean in terms of maybe the I won't say caliber either. The caliber of college ball is good, but it's not the NFL. But the Grey Cup is one of the oldest professional championships in the world. It's been around for years, over 100 years, I think. And it draws well. Like, even though Canadians will, like, now, if you're a football fan, even in Canada, chances are you're an NFL fan. But years ago, that wasn't the case. But now it is. But the CFL still has its diehards. And, they might draw 20,000 a game, 25,000 a game. That's a big, draw. It's not, the 60,000 or the 70,000 that you might get at, like, an NFL game or a college bowl game or something. Some crazy thing at, like, Florida and, whoever. But I would say the Grey Cup, because the Grey Cup usually draws very well, because it's just like the Super Bowl. It's an excuse to just fucking get together, eat food, and get fat, right? You know what I mean? So depending on the stadium, the Grey Cup can draw like 50,000, 60,000. It depends. So I would say Canada specific, like it's specifically Canadian, I would probably say the Grey Cup. But what's the most popular? It's the Stanley Cup, the NHL. For sure. It's hockey. That's the most popular. Vanilla sends in $2, says, why is the new John Wick movie 3 hours too long? 3 hours too long? If it's 3 hours too long, then or you just mean 3 hours long? I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't seen it. So I really have no idea. I don't know. It's a good question. I'm curious to see John Wick Chapter 4 because I like John Wick. I love the first one. The first John Wick I love. The second one, the 2 and 3 sort of bleed into each other for me. That first one was really good. But at the end of the third one, where he like does those barrel rolls and falls off the roof and all that shit, I'm like, okay, there was something about the third movie that was starting to feel cartoony to me. It's starting to feel a little Looney Tunes. So I'm waiting to see if Chapter 4 just continues to, produce that type of thing, or if they don't. I think they call it, what do they call it? Gun fu instead of kung fu, like all the crazy moves. Like, it's just starting to look, it's beautiful. And the choreography is amazing, but it looks like now it's starting to look like choreography to me. It doesn't look like they're actually fighting. It just, because nobody fights like that. You know, I mean, to a point, yes, but then it just becomes ridiculous. It's like the, you know, at the end of Revenge of the Sith, you know, and Obi-Wan and Anakin. I mean, the choreography is amazing, but it looks like they're dancing. It doesn't look like they're trying to hit each other, you know? And so that's what I'm kind of worried about when it comes to these John Wick movies. I'm kind of like, how, but people love them. People don't care. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's see here. Oh, I don't want to miss anything. Got that. Oliver Mercer sends in £5. Hello, Oliver. Says, hey, Dave, have you heard that Jenna Ortega may be cast in Beetlejuice 2 as Lydia's daughter with everyone returning? I'm intrigued myself. I was just talking about that, Oliver. I have heard about it, and I think Jenna Ortega would be a great fit. Would be an absolutely great fit. Michael Demet sends in $5, says, hey, Dave, in the whole grand scheme of things, what does it take to start a production company? Always been curious about that. Oh, God. What does it take to start a production company? That's a loaded question, man. There's a lot of variables at play. I can't pretend to know because obviously I don't own a production company. I don't run a production company, but I will say that anytime you are going to run or open a business, and that's what a production company is a business, you better be very business savvy and understand the business side of show business and film, movie making. You have to have a real foundation for that. Now, I can tell you that there is a difference between a production company and a studio. Now, sometimes the lines get blurred a little bit, like there's variables, but generally speaking, the production company is the company that makes the movie, right? So the studio will often hire a production company, like how Universal came into partnership with Blumhouse to do the Halloween films, right? Because Blumhouse is the production company and Universal is the studio. They're the distributor. So the production company is the team, is, the company that hires the director and hires the actors and the crew and, produces the movie. They make the movie. Now a studio can make the movie too, can make a movie too, of course, but generally they will outsource to a production company of some sort. It's not just the studio. You're going to have other companies involved to help make the movie. So, but if you want to start a production company, again, I mean, I've never done it. I'd love to do it, actually. It'd be awesome. But you really got to know your wits about you in terms of the film industry, the film business, the business side of making movies, and what it all entails. I mean, it's like, it's different spaces, but it's like saying, what does it take to start a restaurant? What does it take to open a hotel? What does it take to, Well, you better have a really good idea and a really good sort of foundation and knowledge base of the hospitality industry. If you want to open up a restaurant, if you want to open up a hotel, then you really got to understand that business, that side, and what it takes, and do your research and really understand, the needs and the desires of the public and the industry and all that stuff. I mean, it's a huge undertaking, huge. The same with a production company. You know what I mean? I mean, Jason Blum, who is the head of Blumhouse Productions, obviously, is a producer, but he's a businessman. He's a businessman. That's what he is. He's a businessman, and he understands the business of show business as it relates to the film industry, and all the ins and outs and all of that. So, you really got to understand that kind of thing. You really have to understand that kind of thing. So I wish I could offer more in terms of specifics, but I haven't opened one myself. So, but that's a general idea to get the ball sort of started for you. Super chat from Edward Nito. Hello, Edward. Thank you very much for the $10 super chat. Says, happy Saturday, Dave. Toho is releasing a new Godzilla movie this November. It's a period piece taking place between 1945 and 1947 as Japanese society attempts to move on from the events of World War II. I have not heard about this. Edward Nito, my Godzilla fan, my Godzilla man, my Godzilla connection. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I will be Googling this when I'm done here today. Excuse me. I will be Googling this. That is cool. Interesting. I like the premise. The premise sounds interesting. So we'll see. I don't know too much about it. I've never heard about it. So thank you for bringing it to my attention. Ryan Andrew Allen sends in $5 and says, what production companies do you think would be a good fit for a low-budget taxi driver-like horror film? I have a feature screenplay for queering. Well, listen, most production companies do not take unsolicited material. I'm not going to say everybody, the majors, right? The big ones, your Blumhouses, your A24s, will not accept unsolicited material. And the reason for that is because they are working at a specific level within the film industry where if they said yes, they would be bombarded with it 500 times a day, 1,000 times on Sunday. Do you know what I mean? They just cannot do that. They are one of the major players in the horror space at the highest levels of the motion picture industry. So anytime you are dealing with a production company or a studio that is working at that level, they will not accept unsolicited material. So you have to, which makes sense. You just can't do that. It's not personal. It's just, you can't do it. So, I would say that if you have a screenplay, you might want to seek out it more, maybe easier. Let me try this again. Maybe more production companies, independent production companies that are more accessible, perhaps. Not quite making theatrically released major Hollywood tentpole films that are being nominated for Academy Awards. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of independent, low-budget production companies. Now, when I say low-budget independent production companies, I don't mean amateur production companies. I just mean production companies that may or may not, but might be looking for screenplays or ideas. You could always search those types of things out, of companies out. But another way to get your screenplay noticed is to enter it into screenplay contests. There are contests out there as well that will take on screenplays, contests that are, sponsored, actually in the industry. They're not scams. And if you win, or if you come in second or third place or whatever, sometimes that can, help to move your screenplay along. And it also gives you some good insight and feedback into whether your screenplay is any good or how competitive it is in the market, right? Whether or not it needs to be tweaked or whether, this is great, but, I'm not really sure. So you have to have thick skin, because, one thing that you'll notice in this business is you can think your shit is great and your shit don't stink, but that's until it's been, critiqued and reviewed. Now that doesn't mean that they're right and you're wrong, or you're wrong and they're right. But it's all about, having professionals look at it and giving you feedback, right? And things to think about. So that's an option too. But in terms of production companies, I don't know any off the top of my head, but if you were looking for me to say like, oh yeah, just reach out to Blumhouse or A24. I mean, listen, unless you know somebody who works at those production companies, unless you know somebody who you trust, who can ask somebody maybe to take a look at something, it's not going to happen. They will not accept unsolicited material, as far as I know, unless there's a, box you can drop something in at midnight. I don't know, but they just can't. They just can't. Not now. Not at that level. So yeah, that's what I would do. That's what I would do. Vanilla follows up with another $5 and says, do you know actor Michael McRae? I do not. He was in a horror film, Madhouse. It's a 1980 horror film. I have no idea who Michael McRae is. The spelling is also not the same. I'm MCRAE. Josh McKenna sends in a very generous super chat of $19.99. Thank you, Josh. And says, I know this sounds toxic, but I hope you understand my feelings. I'm glad Jeepers Creepers Reborn failed. I refuse to see it because the director is a scumbag. He makes me sick. Have you ever rooted for a movie to fail? Well, I believe... Okay, so you're talking about the director, yes. Victor Salva, who obviously directed the first 3 Jeepers Creepers films. He did not direct Jeepers Creepers Reborn, which I think is the one that just came out a couple of months ago. He has nothing to do with that film. Now, obviously, he created the character. I think he created the character, if I'm not mistaken. But as far as I know, he has nothing to do with Jeepers Creepers Reborn. So it's a different director, as far as I know. Unless the director of that movie is also a scumbag for a different reason. I have no idea. I haven't seen the movie because I just think it looks like trash, and I'm not the biggest Jeepers Creepers fan. Anyway, I've seen the first 2, but I tried to watch the third one, and it just was terrible, so I turned it off. So I have no interest in watching Reborn. I've heard it's not very good, so, I trust that. Have I ever rooted for a film to fail? Have I ever rooted for a film to fail? No, I don't think I've ever rooted for a film to fail. No, not that I can think of. I always want movies to be good. I mean, I think people sometimes might misinterpret me when I'm not saying you, but I just mean in general. I think over the years since I've been on this channel, sometimes people will misinterpret me as maybe wanting something to fail, whether it's a Halloween movie or, because of how harsh I can be or opinionated I can be. But again, I mean, I'm a lot of that is going to the extreme for, to make a point. It's I'm being theatrical to, be entertaining, but I have never wanted a movie to fail, not that I can think of off the top of my head. I always want movies to be good. I always want, whether it's Halloween, Elm Street, Scream, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, some random film that's not even attached to a franchise. I always want movies to be good. And some movies will resonate with me and others won't. But I don't recall a time where I've ever wanted it to fail. Like seriously wanted. I might have joked or something like that, but like actually wanted a movie to fail. Not that I can think of. Oliver Mercer sends in $5, says, being with the industry, have you met or known any great Canadian writers who you think should be a lot more popular? I don't think so. I haven't met too many writers in my life. Again, I mean, my experience in the entertainment industry is largely on the voiceover side of the industry, which is a huge industry. I mean, voiceover and voice acting is often overlooked because you're out of sight and you're out of mind, but it's one of the most important parts of the entertainment industry. Voice acting and voiceover is all over the place. I mean, voice acting is not just animation and cartoons. It's movie trailers, network promos, radio and television commercials, narration, IVR prompts, audiobooks, it's a ton of stuff, so I would say that I've met a lot of obviously famous voice actors connected to the voiceover industry, who some of them have done on-camera work. And then when it's come to like filmmakers or on-camera actors or anybody related to the film industry who I've met a lot of, I've been to, film festivals and after parties and, all that kind of stuff. But it's usually on the peripheral because I'm not, we're in two separate sides, right? It would be like asking them, hey, how many voice actors have you met? And they might be like, oh, I've met some, voice actors because, they overlap, right? Like, as I said, when you've worked in the industry long enough, different facets of the industry you'll meet. You'll meet at parties, you'll meet at film festivals, you'll meet at studios. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've walked into like a production house to do a voiceover, and down the hall, out walks, I don't know, the director of some film that's being released at TIFF or something like that, right? Because he's doing post-production on his movie at the same post-production facility, or, whatever, right? So, those things do happen. But specifically writers, I don't know. I can't think of any off the top of my head. It's an honest answer. I may have, and just not known it. Raymond M sends in $5, says, Fast X is coming, baby. Here is your friendly countdown to Fast 10. That's a release, 68 days, 7 hours, 3 minutes, and 24 seconds left. Raymond M is excited for Fast 10, folks. Raymond M is excited for Fast 10. Andrew Stevens, my man, Andrew Stevens, one of my great moderators here. Andrew Stevens sends in $10. Thank you, Andrew, and says, here's a Halloween question. Why not? From all 3 David Gordon Green movies, which three section, beginning, middle, and an end of each films would you use to make one serviceable Halloween movie? Ooh, that's an interesting question. I got to think about this. A serviceable Halloween movie. That's a good question, Andrew. See, I got to take all of them. Jesus, I don't know. I mean, the first movie, and I know this isn't the question you asked, but the first Halloween, David Gordon Green's first one, is fine. It's the most consistent all the way through. So you can look at that movie, except for the Sartain moment. It's consistent all the way through. And even with the Sartain moment, they quickly abandon it and get back on track. So the Sartain moment feels kind of like they do this one thing and then they throw the lightsaber over the shoulder. I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't watched the movies. I mean, I've only seen Halloween Ends twice. I saw it once in the theater, then once on Peacock with Tony, because we watched it here on the channel, I think, right? Yeah. I've seen Halloween Kills, I think twice, and not in like a year and a half. And then the first one I saw 3 times, but I haven't watched it in like, I don't know. When was the last time I watched it here on the channel? 2 years ago? So I don't know. My memory's a little fuzzy on the specifics of those 3 movies. I mean, Halloween Ends I remember the most of because it's the most recent. And I do really like the Corey story in Halloween Ends. I just don't like it in that movie. So I was going to say, build an entire movie around the Corey story without Michael Myers, because as I've often said, ironically, I thought Halloween Ends was actually really good until Michael Myers showed up. It's like when he showed up, like the movie went to shit, ironically. But that's not your question. Your question is, what 3 acts out of the 3 movies would you take to put into one movie? I mean, I guess you could take maybe the first... I guess you take the first 2 acts of 18 and then the last act of Ends minus the Corey shit. And there you go, I guess. I don't even think you need anything from Halloween Kills. You don't need anything from Halloween Kills. And again, I know that's not the question. I don't know what to put in. Maybe the kills, I guess. You can put the kills in there, but in terms of the story and the structure, I don't think there's anything Halloween Kills that is salvageable, really, in terms of that you would miss. because the legacy characters die, cheaply. They're there to just die. I don't feel anything when they die. The mob mentality thing at the hospital is just shoehorned in. And it just ends. It just, the kills are good. Like I said, maybe you take Cameron's kill. Yeah, that's good. Like there's some really good kills. There's one good sequence with that I really like with Lindsay. But you put that sequence in a better movie and it might just, is it the fact that the sequence is really good, or is the fact that it's a serviceable sequence in an otherwise underwhelming sequel? Right. And I'm talking about when she's being chased and she hides by the river there, and Michael's on it's shot really well. The suspense is good, but in a better movie that might not stand out. Maybe it stands out just because the rest of the movie's so underwhelming. I don't know. That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. That's a tough one to figure out and kind of, that's a tough one. I'm going to say the first two acts and then combine the second act or the third act in 18 with the third act in ends a little bit. I know I'm cheating. I just can't think of, in terms of story, I can't think of what to take out of Kills. I have no idea. Andrew says, honestly, my own question had me thinking an hour on it. That's what it's one of those things. I could probably spend an hour thinking about it. It's crazy. Have I got all the super chats? I think I have so far. I believe I have anyway. I think I've got them all. It's Saturday night, folks. It's Saturday night. How are you all doing on this Saturday night? I hope you are doing well. It's Me, Billy, Chapter 2 campaign, May the 1st. May the 1st. Put it on the calendar. I feel like I'm running an election or something. We have to, I feel like I'm running for office. We have to have a strong start. When that campaign launches, we have to have a strong start out of the gate. It's going to run for 2 months. Like every campaign, there's always a lull in the middle, right? So we need to have a strong start so that when we hit that lull, which is inevitable, it's okay. We can afford to have some slow time because we did so well out of the gate. Do you know what I mean? So that's really important. That was one of our biggest successes with the first campaign back in 2020. I think we raised and I'm not saying we have to raise this much again. I'm just saying, I think in the first 3 or 4 days, we raised 50% of our budget. It was insane. And it looked like some people were like, oh my God, you're going to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. I was like, no. I said, everybody's excited. Everybody's come out. That's amazing. Everybody's voting, right? That's great. But it's going to slow down. And sure enough, it did. But we could afford that because we had such a strong start. So we need everybody to come out on that, if you can, of course. If you can. We need everybody to step up, certainly in that first couple of weeks at the very least, to step up and really so we get a nice, strong, juicy start towards that production budget. Super chat comes in from Sebastian. Hello, Sebastian. Sends in $4.99. Says, hey, Dave, been a bit dude. It's been a while, Sebastian. What do you think will be revealed at the H45 convention? I heard Malak Akkad might reveal something, maybe a show or a movie. I don't think anything's going to be revealed. My first question to you is, where did you hear this? Who said it? And where is it coming from? Were they just speculating? Or what? So I've only been to one, but I went to the 40th anniversary convention in Pasadena in 2018. I've watched the other conventions. Obviously, there's the 25 Years of Terror, which is on, DVD. The Night She Came Home is 2013. That's all over, YouTube. The Halloween conventions, and I stand to be corrected, and if Sean Clark ever sees this, he can correct me. My feeling is that it's not that kind of convention. I don't think Malak has ever been to any of the conventions. As far as I know, I don't think he was at the 18. Maybe he has. Yeah, maybe he has. I don't recall him being there at the 18. it's never struck me as that kind of convention, you know, where like they make announcements for Halloween movies. I mean, if they're going to do that, Sebastian, they would do it at Comic-Con. They would do it at, you know, some sort of pop culture convention where the general movie-going audience is, where they can release that kind of information, because it's all about eyeballs and it's all about, you know, media and who's there. Look, the Halloween convention is big in the Halloween world, but it's nothing in the pop culture world. It's nothing. It's a 2-day event, right? You know, that may get, I don't know, 20,000 people, 30,000 people that roll through, which might seem like a lot, but when you have Comic-Con that gets like, you know, 200,000 and 300,000 people that roll through, it's not. It's very small in the convention world. Now, it's the biggest Halloween thing, sure, but it's also the only Halloween convention, right? And that's something too that you got to keep in mind. It's not even a horror convention. It's a Halloween specific convention. Now that doesn't mean that they won't have vendors there where you can buy different horror t-shirts. I mean, I bought a Goonies t-shirt at the 40th. But generally speaking, it's all Halloween. That's who's there. That's who the actors are. It's all the Halloween alum, Halloween. So I understand your logic that, yeah, maybe that's where Malik's going to announce something. And maybe he will. Like, I'm not saying he won't. If I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet it. I wouldn't bet it. I wouldn't bet that he'd even be there. Maybe he will because it's 45. You know, I don't know. But I just don't see any sort of announcement with the Halloween universe or the Halloween franchise being at the Halloween convention. Maybe though. I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe it's possible. But I think something like that, he wouldn't even wait to a convention to do it. He would just do it and let all the trades pick it up, or wait to Comic-Con, which also seems... See, here's the thing. The Halloween convention feels too small and Comic-Con feels way too big. And so I almost feel like if Malik Akkad had an idea and he found himself, you know, in some sort of agreement, working relationship with another studio or production company, that he would just make the announcement. It would make the announcement on HalloweenMovies.com or whatever, and then you just let everybody pick it up. That's what I think. But you never know. You never know. You never know. You never know. Let me see here. Got that. That's good. Bobby Hall says, Dave, in Halloween Ends, do you think it was strange that Laurie didn't react to Corey wearing Michael's mask? She also didn't seem to wonder what type of connection Corey and Michael had. I did think that was strange when I first watched the movie in the theater. I did. I thought that was a little peculiar. I thought that was very weird. Yeah, I thought it. Yes, I did. I thought it was strange. Why she did. I guess maybe you could play it as, because we don't even know. Here's the thing. Do we know? Halloween Ends nutballs out there, because I know you exist and maybe some of you are watching this stream. And I say that with affection. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, and again, I've only seen the movie twice and not since October. When Laurie fakes her suicide, does she think that Michael has come for her? Or does she think that's Corey? Because in one sense, you could interpret it that way. Because it's not like Laurie... it's very clearly established that she is suspicious of Corey. She talks to Allison about it, right? I've seen his eyes, Michael's eyes, and blah. Clearly she does not like Corey, right? She's very suspicious of him. So, was she expecting Michael, or was the reason she didn't have a reaction, or at least, oh my God, it's Corey, is because she suspected it was him. She knew it was him. Now, the real question comes down to, how did he get the mask? You would think that would be, she's like, what is this? What do you got? What's going on? But then if you're going to go that far and you're going to leave that up to the audience, why bother explain that? Right? I mean, there's no sense in doing that. So yeah, that's how I've sort of justified it in my mind. I've sort of justified it that she just knew it was Corey. I mean, you absolutely can take it that, she's expecting Michael to show up. Sure, yeah. But it also plays out like she's expecting it to be him too. Corey. And maybe she doesn't have a reaction because she's like, yeah, well, it's you. I knew that was you. So maybe that's why. Chester Franklin Jr. says, Dave, who would be a replacement for the Halloween convention for George P. Wilbur recently passed? Tom Morga be there because he was bandaged up, Michael. I don't know. I have no idea, Chester. There's lots of people that you could, it depends if they want to as well, right? Not everybody wants to. I mean, they get paid to be there too, but, I don't know. But George P. will not be there. That is true. I don't even think he was at the 40th. Was he at the 40th? It's entirely possible he was. I just don't recall seeing George P. Wilbur at the 40th. I know Don Shanks was there because he always brings his screen-used mask and sets it on the table. It's amazing that thing still holds up. Looks like shit now, but it's pretty cool. I don't remember if any. Bobby Hall was at the 40th. Bobby, was George P. Wilbur there? I don't remember seeing him there. Oh, Brooke Flynn said he was. He was. Okay. He was there. Was he there both days? He was indeed. Oh, he was in Dead Meat's video. Okay, great. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you. Okay. I just don't recall seeing him. Now, mind you, there were a lot of people there. I just don't recall seeing him. But okay, great. Well, that's good. I mean, he was at least at the 40th, right? And so that's good. But replace him, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, I think what you're going to see at the 45th is you're going to see more of, you see, at the 40th, I believe the only, and I can be wrong about this too, was the only, I think the actress who played Dana, I met her, spoke to her for a bit. That's on my channel. Her name was Reese something, I think, or Reese Reeson. She was there. She was very nice. But I don't recall anybody else in terms of cast from Halloween 18 being there. I don't think. Oh, well, I mean, there's James Jude Courtney, of course, but he doesn't count. I mean, like, everybody else. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brooke. But now that we're 5 years later, and because you see, when the 40th anniversary for Halloween 18 happened, the movie hadn't been released yet. It was on the cusp of being released. But it hadn't been released yet. So now you're 5 years later, 3 movies in. There's lots of people that, if they can convince them, there's a lot. I think you're going to see a lot of cast members from the David Gordon Green trilogy there, and that will more than make up for it, right? So you'll probably have Rian Reese. That's it. Rian Reese. That's it. Yeah. It's pronounced Rian Reese. I remember that because we talked about that before we before we went on my camera before I recorded it. And so I would say that you're probably going to, you'll probably get more cast members from the other Halloween films now, right? So, maybe you'll get Anthony Michael Hall. Maybe you'll get, the guy who played Dave and, the girl who played Vicky, and you know what I mean? Maybe you'll get Andy Matichek, because I don't think Andy Matichek was there. Was Andy Matichek there? I almost feel like she was. I kind of feel like she was, but I don't think she was. I don't think Andy Matichek was there. So if she wasn't there, maybe you'll get her there, right? So I think you'll see more of the David Gordon Green trilogy coming together for the 45th, if they can book them, right? If they're available, if the schedules align. If the schedules align. It's entirely possible. All right. Did I get all the super chats? Nobody's screaming at me, so I don't think I missed any. Just want to make sure. I don't believe I missed any anyway. Yeah, Andy wasn't there. That's right. So that's what I think you're going to see. 45th anniversary. You'll probably see more of the David Gordon Green cast. I would think anyway. You know what I mean? That's what I think. And I say this, I don't want to sound morbid when I say this, but it's just reality. Of course, anything can happen between now and then, but Dick Warlock is like 83 years old, folks. He was at the 40th. I'm just saying, if he does end up being at the 45th, you might want to consider getting that autograph, because he may not be around for the 50th. Just saying. He's in his 80s, folks. He's in his 80s. I mean, anybody could go at any time. I mean, Nick Castle's, 75 or whatever he is? I mean, anybody can go at any time. These folks aren't going to be around forever. It's, we're all getting old. We're all getting up there. And getting old really does suck. It really does. I know I sound like no, it's true. It does. It does. And it's true that you don't feel like you still feel like you're younger inside. It is true. That is true. I remember people saying that to me when I was like 20, 15, 16, and being like, oh, I don't know. How's that possible? You look like, you're 50. How's it? No, it's true. It's true. I mean, it doesn't mean you don't feel physically maybe a little older, but in terms of like mind and inside, yeah, I don't feel like I'm not saying I'm old, but I'm just saying I don't feel like I'm almost 44. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm 6 years away from 50. I don't feel that inside. I still feel like, I laugh at the same things. I still find the same things funny, that I did when I was 20. I still kind of act like I'm 20 sometimes, and it's hard to believe. So yeah, if you're a lot younger than me, you will soon find that out. Andrew Stevens, but Dave, that deserves a but Dave. Where is it? Here we go. But Dave. You know how that started? You want to know how that started? It was a few years ago now, probably in the lead up to Halloween 18. I forget who this was. I haven't seen this individual around for a while, but it was somebody, and maybe it's because I started doing this. There was somebody that, because I had opinions, right? And they're just opinions, folks. They're just opinions. It's amazing how people get over opinions. But anyway, so I was giving my opinions, I think, on like Halloween 5 and Halloween Resurrection. Like it was back in those days, right? Like 18, 19, the year, I mean. And there was this one guy who, like, he would always chime in the comments. He'd be like, but Dave, but Dave, not like that, but Dave, not like that. But he'd be like, but Dave. And he'd go on this diatribe. He was always countering everything. He never commented when he agreed. He's just one of those people that, for whatever reason, never comments when they agree. They only comment to disagree or to state a point or to, point something out. Sometimes you can refer to those people as actually people. And it's like, hey, listen, I don't mind an actually every now and then, but if that's all you're doing, it's kind of, I just ignore you at the end of the day because it's like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, contribute, don't be that guy. And this is a while ago, but without fail, every video, again, it's like 5 years ago, every video, but Dave. He'd begin a sentence with "but Dave," and I don't think he wasn't doing it because of that, like "but Dave," because that hadn't existed yet, right? And then, for whatever reason, I guess during a stream or a video, when I was talking about something and I was passionate, I would love to know what video I did it, like the first video I did it in, because that'll tell you sort of, when and around this happened. But I said something that in my mind I knew was probably going to be, controversial or something like that. And I think I said something like, I do what I do, right? Being theatrical. And I'm like, so I don't know. I forget what it was, but let's say it's something like, listen, I just think the such and such in Halloween H2O is just, I think it's dog shit. I just think it's dog shit. But Dave, and it just came out. And and I don't. And again, whoever this person wasn't writing it like that. It's just for whatever reason, that's how they always began their comment. And never heard from them again. And at least I don't think. I mean, maybe they changed their name and their avatar and now they're commenting and as somebody else, maybe. I mean, that's entirely possible. I doubt that would, I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Like, I doubt that, but I'll never forget that. That's my recollection of how it started was that it was because of this commenter that every time without fail, but Dave. I'm like, what do you mean, but? But, it's, oh God, here we go. Now what, and I don't know. It was fun. Anyways, whoever you are, if you're still out there, I was just having fun with you. I know it's become this big thing now. And now it's grown now, right? It's not really about that individual. And it never really was about the individual, to be absolutely clear. It was really about just the idea of fandom in general, really, of how there's a lot of fandom that's always, but come on, you know what I mean? Like, it was really sort of a marquee for that. And it stems from, this individual who always used to say, but Dave. If you're out there, I hope you're well. I hope you're good. And I hope you're still watching. No, I didn't mean it personally. But yeah, it's fucking funny. Because now everybody does it. And I think I've seen it on some other channels too. I don't know what channels I've seen it on, but I think I've seen other channels so I'm not the only one. Like, let's be clear. I am not the only one that has ever gotten a but Dave. I mean, I'm sure if you have a following and you talk movies, you've received your fair share of but John or but Bob or, but I don't know, Steve or Lucy or, whoever, whatever your name is, I'm sure you've seen those, oh yeah, they're there. And it's all fun, folks. It's all fun. We're just having fun. Silver Screen Previews says, Dave, why do you think Akkad didn't go with Dick Warlock for Halloween 4? He would have killed it again as Michael. Well, I don't know specifically, but I can tell you it's probably one of two reasons. One, he reached out to Dick Warlock and Dick Warlock was not interested or couldn't do it because of scheduling. Two, nobody thought to. And I think it's the latter. You see, now in the world of the internet and the ease of access of information and the world of fandom, we scrutinize and we're all about, we have this overly emotional attachment to the fine details and now, no, we need to do this. But back then, there was no internet. Nobody was scrutinizing this. Nobody cared who played Michael Myers. Nobody knew who played Michael Myers in the world of fandom. right? Nobody cared. Nobody knew. That's why Nick Castle was never asked to reprise his role. He was never asked because nobody thought it was important. Nobody thought it was important. You can get anybody to fucking put anybody in that suit. It doesn't matter. Just fucking walk around. That's all we need you to do. It wasn't until the internet and, the world of fandom and the ease of access of information and the free flow of information and how we realize the tiny nuances and idiosyncrasies of whoever's performance, whether that's in Halloween or some other franchise. Well, you look at Nick, and look what he did here. And I'm a part of that. I'm just saying, I'm a part of that, right? And we're like, fucking, we can do this. He sits up and just, look at part two, and part two is not quite like that. And I'm not saying that those conversations didn't exist at all, but they weren't like this. It's not like we lived in a world in the 80s where I could be hanging with my friends, okay? And I could be like, no, Nick Castle was way better than, who played that Michael in part? Yeah, him, he's way better. No, he's not better. He totally is, dude. Look, and whip out a fucking pocket computer and quickly bring up a scene from Halloween in literally 7.8 seconds and show my friend. That didn't exist in the 80s. So if you wanted to analyze or look at a movie or, talk to your friends about a movie, what did you have to do? You had to go home. You had to pop in the VHS. You had to fast forward to the scene you were talking about. Or if you didn't own it, you had to go to the video store. You had to rent it. You had to bring it home. You had to put it in. You had to fast forward, go to the scene. You had to pause and you had to... It was a whole thing. So the overabundance of scrutiny and analyzing wasn't there because the ease of information for which we are able to do that with did not exist. It did not exist. Now we can literally pull up every single Michael Myers in 5 seconds. That's crazy. And we can analyze and look at this, and we can have this conversation in real time. But in the 80s, it didn't exist. Nobody realized how important or not important it was, or the nuances of one's performance, or the idiosyncrasies, or anything like that. Nobody, maybe when you're watching the movie, you might pick up on certain cool things. The sit-up is very much like this and like this, very sort of, not rope, but yeah, kind of like, stiff and kind of, that's kind of. But you didn't think about that afterwards, and you certainly couldn't bring it up on some pocket computer in 5 seconds if you're talking to your buddies. You have to go up, get the tape, put it in. And I remember having to do that. 8-year-old me, 9-year-old me, 10-year-old me, having to pop in the VCR, fast forwarding with my buddies. No, look at this. It just didn't exist, right? So I just don't think they cared. I think that's why. Nobody knew or thought that it was important. It's just a guy in a mask. Just walk, Nick. Just walk. I mean, Dick Warlock is famous. He famously said, so how do you want me to play this? Dick Warlock said, so what should I do? He said, no, actually, I don't know if he said that. I stand to be corrected, but I remember Dick Warlock saying nobody told him how to play Michael Myers. Nobody said he had to do what Nick Castle did. Nobody said anything. Literally nothing. He said, so I just played it the way, this is the character, this is who he is. Okay. And he played it the way he played it. That goes to show you how not important the performance of Michael Myers was to all of these filmmakers. Didn't matter. Right? I mean, look what happened with Freddy. Look at what happened. Now that's a bit of a different situation because Freddy is a character who speaks. Okay, that is very different. But even then, Robert Englund wanted more money. I get it. And they were like, no, because they didn't think he was important enough. So that shot that you see, and it's kind of cringeworthy now, but in A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, in the bathroom with all the steam, there's a shot of Freddy coming out of the steam. You know the shot I'm talking about. You know it because it's not Robert Englund at all. At all. Well, the movie wasn't working without Robert, so they quickly were like, Robert, please come back. We'll pay you what you want. And he came back. Can you imagine if the rest of the movie was without Robert? There's a whole sort of situation where I just think we need to understand that that's why nobody cared. See, now it's different because of the access of information, because of all the material at our fingertips in 5 seconds, we're able to see and appreciate where it just wasn't there 40 years ago. So that's why. All right. Okay, so the last super chat was Andrew Stevens, right? But Dave, I think, just want to make sure. All right, folks, we'll take this thing to 9 o'clock. So about another half hour or so. That's a good Saturday night stream. Let me see here. Guitarist Dog 87 says, "Hi Dave, you know what I think would have fixed Halloween Kills a little bit? Rewrite Marion Chambers as a hospital worker and Sheriff Brackett as that old badass bar regular." I don't know if that would have fixed it. I mean, I see what you're saying. It would have, the characters maybe would have been more, I don't think sorry, wait, you're saying Sheriff Brackett, right? Brackett being a security guard at a hospital is not an issue. There's no doubt he would not be the only security guard at a hospital. Okay. He was, listen, obviously looking at him, you know that he's not going to be able to throw down if shit hits the fan. And I don't mean with Michael. I just mean everyday, security guard. Obviously this old man who's out of shape was given the security guard role as a symbol, as just a nice thing, right? There's obviously other well-prepared, physically fit security guards in the hospital that if shit really hit the fan with a patient or whatever, they would intervene and that kind of stuff. So I don't think him being a security guard's an issue. I buy that. I believe that, a retired cop, who's a security guard at a small town hospital. Sure. He probably sits in his desk, answers phones, locks up, tells people where such and such is. You know what I mean? And I say this with respect, but like a Walmart greeter. You know what I mean? Like for sure. That I believe. Him being a security guard, not an issue. I'd actually believe him being a security guard more than a 82-year-old disgruntled bartender. I don't know if that's necessarily what I would or a badass, but yeah, I guess he could be in the bar, I guess. But Marion, on the other hand, I just don't believe that she would be hanging out. I don't believe to me, it's just not properly motivated. I just don't believe that Marion, it works. I can suspend my disbelief and go, oh, okay. But I have trouble believing that she would be there. Tommy and Lindsay, sure. Lonnie, well, they gave him a reason to be there because they wrote a situation they wrote a situation where Lonnie runs into Michael. Well, that situation did not exist before Halloween Kills. So they needed to write a situation for him in order to justify why he's there. Because if they didn't, why is Lonnie there? Because we don't know. By our account, Lonnie never ran into Michael Myers, right? So they needed to show you that, yes, he did, and he's feeling it, and that's why he's there. Okay. Well, Marion did, sure, but why is Marion? She did at the beginning of the movie. We never saw her again. Halloween 2 does not exist in this timeline, so you can't count Halloween 2 as her coming back at the end, right? It's no longer canon. So the last time we saw Marion was her little run-in with, sure, okay, but so she goes to Haddonfield every year to hang out with these fucking people. 30 years her Junior, it just, I just don't feel it. I just don't feel it. So you saying a hospital worker, again, I could believe that. I could believe that Marion was, yeah, maybe she's a nurse. She's still a nurse. Halloween 2 and H2O are not canon in this timeline. So the last time we saw her, yeah, maybe she's a nurse. I could believe that. But whatever their occupations are isn't really the issue. The issue is just, they just didn't do anything. It was there. It was fan service for the sake of fan service. And I felt nothing when they died. And that should never happen. When you're killing a legacy character, you should always feel something. And I just didn't feel anything. It felt shoehorned in. It felt just kind of meh, and it was because of the stakes and the circumstances for which it happened. I applaud the effort. Obviously, making movies is not easy. And, the whole idea, I do like the rhyming with the hand, that comes to the window and pulls her through the window. There's a symmetry there. It's like 40 years ago, he tried to do that to her, but failed. But now he smashed the window and got her hair. So I like that, but it's just underwhelming. It just feels, there were just too many characters. I don't think Brackett should have come back at all. I don't think Marion should have come back at all. I don't think Lonnie should have come back at all. I think you should have focused on Tommy and Lindsay. And I don't mean Tommy and Lindsay as a couple. You don't have to, have them as a couple. No. They can, they don't have to be a couple. But Tommy and Lindsay should have been the focus of that story. And therefore, you eliminate a lot of, characters where you have to focus screen time on. And you focus on Lindsay and Tommy, those two. And the dynamic and the relationship between those two, and how the town is looking to them to lead. And they're in a position where they're like, but we were children. I mean, we were kids. And the town is like, yeah, you might be kids, but the only other person who's got experience is Lori, and she's in surgery. And you guys are adults now. We're looking to you. I mean, don't say this out loud verbatim, but that's what you get from what's happening. And Tommy and Lindsay feel this sense of responsibility that has been suddenly thrust upon them, that now they have to, and now Tommy and Lindsay have all the screen time. It's basically their film, and so I think that would have worked better. Nobody cares about Brackett and Marion and Lonnie. We don't need them, I mean, if you want to have, it's entirely possible that you could have a mention of Brackett and he passed away or something. I don't know. But I just think for the story's sake, Tommy and Lindsay is where the focus should have been. That's what I would have done. Or if you want to have Brackett, like I said, you can, but you do what I did in my sequel concept. You structure it that way, and then it becomes this ensemble piece where they're all together. It just was a very confusing sort of thing to me, in my mind anyway. But yeah. Saturday night, It's Me Billy Chapter 2 campaign, May the 1st. We're going to need your help, folks. We're going to need your help. May the 1st, It's Me Billy Chapter 2 Indiegogo campaign. The crowdfunding campaign begins on May the 1st and will run for 2 months. It will run from May the 1st to July the 1st. So start putting away those coins and those dollars, putting them in sock drawers. Anytime you get some extra change or have a little bit of extra cash, maybe just put them into a sock drawer or something like that. I don't know. A piggy bank, a Billy bank, a Billy bank. Oh, that's kind of weird. May the 1st. We did it. In 2020, we raised 64,000 Canadian dollars for It's Me Billy Chapter 1, which is unbelievable. You all did that, by the way. Literally, that's not hyperbole. I've said that before on the channel, but it's true. Like, it's actually literally factually true. I'm not trying to stroke your ego or anything. That is actually true. Without you, we would not have been able to make the movie. That's an actual fact. And yeah, and I believe this amazing community that we've built here can do it again. I believe we can, because we really want to show you how it ends. And so if you really liked Chapter 1 and you're just like, what's going to happen? We need your help. We need your help. May the 1st, folks. May the foist. May the foist. Let's see here. Trying to find some people I don't necessarily recognize. Chester Franklin Jr. says, Dave, do you have some favorite muffins? Muffins. When I was in high school, I never brought a lunch to school. I would always bring like $5 in my pocket, or if I didn't have $5, I was such a bum. I would ask like my friends, I'd be like, hey, do you got like a couple bucks I could borrow? I usually had $5, but I would go to my cafeteria, and not every day, but a lot of days I would go to my cafeteria and I would buy a large chocolate milk with a chocolate chip muffin. And I would sit there in the cafeteria eating my chocolate chip muffin with my chocolate milk. By the way, I'm a huge chocolate milk fan. I don't know what it is. I don't drink milk really at all. I drink almond milk. So, and chocolate milk's a bit of a treat. You know, it's a treat, you know, and who doesn't like chocolate? But I kid you not, I'm nearly 44 years old, and I've been out with my friends. I've been out with my friends at like pubs and things like that. Now, I have been in situations where, I haven't ordered a chocolate milk because I know they don't have it. You know, you're at a bar or, a nightclub or something. Well, they don't have chocolate milk. But if I'm at like a pub or a restaurant, listen, it's not hyperbole. It would be me and Bruce and, maybe a couple of friends, whatever. And they're all ordering Heineken and Coors or, a Canadian or, whatever. They're ordering beer, right? They're ordering alcohol. And I'll be like, do you have any chocolate milk? I love chocolate. And then sometimes I will go to the bathroom and I'll come back and they'll be like, we ordered for you. It's okay. And of course they ordered me a chocolate milk. I love chocolate milk, but I don't drink it at home. I don't buy, I have bought it and drank it at home, of course. But I don't buy it generally, because I always know that there might be a situation where when I'm out, I'm like, you're going through the Tim Hortons drive-through. Tim Hortons is like Canada's Starbucks. We do have Starbucks as well here. But Tim Hortons is a Canadian chain. They're in the States too, not all over the place, but they're starting to seep into the States. It's just a donut shop. It's like a Dunkin' Donuts, a little classier than a Dunkin' Donuts, but kind of in between a Dunkin' and a Starbucks. But there's many times where my girlfriend and I will be out and we'll be going through the drive-through, and I look forward to it. I'm like, I'm going to get like a ham and cheese sandwich or a bagel or something, whatever, and a chocolate milk. It's a treat. I love it. So I'm a big chocolate milk guy. But muffins, chocolate chip muffins, blueberry muffins, oatmeal muffins. I'm not that picky, man. I'm not that picky. Oatmeal, blueberry, cranberry. A muffin's a muffin, really, at the end of the day. Chocolate chip, muffin's a muffin. I like banana bread too. I like banana bread. Yeah, banana bread is good. Ooh, I wonder if I could make, I'm not that good of a cook. I'm also not that good with grammar. I can cook, but I'm not like a chef or anything, or a baker. I wonder if it's hard to make banana bread. I bet you it's not. Banana bread is good. Got to get bananas though. My stepmother years ago, she's since passed away, but when I was a teenager living with my dad and my stepmom, I didn't get along very well with my stepmom. But one thing I cannot take away from her is two things. She was incredibly intelligent, very smart, like highly educated, and a really good cook. When she cooked. There's many times where she didn't cook, but when she did cook, she was very good, and she was good at baking and all that kind of stuff. And she used to cook up a lot of good stuff. Evil Monsterism says, happy Saturday, Dave. What's the most boring movie you've ever seen? Ooh, the most boring movie I've ever seen? I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. That's a very good question, and I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to have to think on that. One. Andrew Stevens says, Tim Hortons is better than Dunkin's and Starbucks. Andrew, whereabouts are you? You don't have to give specifics, but are there Tim Hortons in your area? I know they've made it into New York State. I know that because when I've gone over the border into Buffalo to go to the Sabers games, they're definitely there. Which is really cool because usually it's the other way around. Usually it's an American chain that's coming into Canada. Very rarely is it a Canadian chain that's coming into the States. But Tim Hortons is. And I don't know if it's going to last, on how well it's going to do. It's too bad too, because we've had, like, there's been a couple of American chains. Like obviously we have Walmart here. They're all over the place. But about 10 years ago, Target came to Canada, and we had Target for about, let's say, a year maybe? Not that long. 2 years tops. And they pulled out. But they pulled out because they outpriced themselves. They were more expensive than Walmart. So people were like, I think they just thought the novelty of, Target's here now. Yeah, but Target and Walmart are, listen, I've been into Targets, in the States. Yeah, it's different, but it's the same thing. Like it's the same kind of department store. So I'm like, I think Target just felt that the novelty of Target would just lure Canadians away from Walmart into, nope. We walked in there, we were like, the fuck? Why would I buy that here when I go to Walmart and buy it for $4 cheaper? I'm out. And that started to happen a lot. So Target just really, it was their own fault. And from my understanding of when it happened. So they left like 10 years ago, I think. And then just recently, Nordstrom, the very sort of ritzy, high-end department store, is packing it in. They've been here for about 10 years. There's a flagship store at the Eaton Centre in Toronto, right at Dundas Square, which is like our Times Square. It's a big shopping mall right downtown, and there's a big flagship store there. I've been in there just to kind of check out the prices. I walked up to like a pair of shoes, and I'm like, what the fuck? $5,000? What the fuck? It's insane. It's fun to go into those stores. But they're out now too. They just announced that Nordstrom is leaving Canada. So by the end of June, all the stores in Canada will be closed, which is, I don't shop there. I'm not going to buy a $5,000 pair of shoes, for Christ's sakes. I'll go to Skechers, thank you. But I do know that a lot of people did shop there, and a lot of, so I just couldn't some of the prices in there, I'm like, I'm not paying that. Fuck, I'm just, you know what I mean? So usually it's the other way around. American chains coming into Canada, and the vast majority of them come in and succeed because our cultures are not that different. We Canadians would like to think we're so different from the US, and in many ways we are. There's a lot of things we're very, but at the end of the day, culturally, we're way more alike than we are different. So that's why a lot of the chains that come up here generally always succeed. But to have a Canadian chain go into the States and succeed, as far as I know, is a novelty, I think. I don't think that usually happens. Did Andrew say here? We got 2 in Kentucky. Okay, so you're in Kentucky. Okay, so Tim Hortons has made it to Kentucky. All right, Tim Hortons making it to Kentucky. Yes, that's right. Creep N66 says Tim Hortons is American owned now. It is indeed. That is correct. But it started here. Yes, you are correct. It's been American owned for a number of years because it was the Wendy. I believe it was the company that owned Wendy's did it. This is like going back quite a few years. Yes, you are correct. But it started in Canada. It's for all intents and purposes, it's a Canadian chain. Its inception wasn't from the United States. The ownership might be American, sure. But its roots are in Canada. Tim Hortons are big here in Ohio. Awesome. That's great. That's great to see. That's great to see that it's going across. That's great. Burger King bought Tim Hortons. Yes, Burger King did. Did they buy it from Wendy's, or are Wendy's and Burger King open? Are they owned by the same people? Because for many years you'd go to like a Tim Hortons and it'd be like a Tim Hortons and a Wendy's, like in the same building. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, Burger King bought it, I guess. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's been American owned for at least 10 or 15 years. It's been a while. It's been a while. But that's because Burger King thought, this is interesting. We could make a lot of money from this chain. But I say Canadian chain because that's where it started. It started here, and it was here for years before it ever went into the States. But you are correct. The ownership now is American. Yes, that is true. That is true. What's the time? 10 minutes, folks. 10 minutes left in the show. Alex Schembach says, Dave, I have visited Montreal and Quebec City and absolutely loved it. What American city would you like to visit? I have been to Montreal. I have not been to Quebec City. What American city would I love to visit? Well, I've been to New York. I've been to Los Angeles. I wouldn't mind visiting Chicago. I've been to O'Hare Airport years ago, but I've never actually been to the city itself. I think Chicago would be fun to visit. I think Seattle would be an interesting city to visit. I've been to Orlando, been to Buffalo. I think New Orleans would be cool. Memphis would be cool. New Orleans. That would be cool. Nashville, I think would be cool. Like anything down south, I think would be really cool. Those are some places. I'd like to go back to New York. I have been to New York in almost 10 years. I like New York a lot. It's fun. So yeah, those are some. Oh, great. Tim Hortons has just opened up here in Wales too. Amazing. Tim Hortons. Yes. That's great. That's great stuff. It's great to see a Canadian brand. I know it's American owned. I know that, but I'm just saying it's great to see the Canadian love being spread all over the world. Do you know who Tim Hortons was, by the way? Tim Horton was a hockey player. That's who Tim Horton was. Who died, I believe he died in a tragic car accident, if I'm not mistaken. The very first Tim Hortons that ever opened was, I believe, in Hamilton, Ontario, which is, Hamilton is a city of about 5,500 people. No, 550,000 people. And it is about an hour east of Toronto. And it's considered part of the GTHA, the Greater Toronto Hamilton area. And I believe the very first Tim Hortons opened in, I don't know, 70 something or whatever. And it was in Hamilton. And I believe it's still there. I mean, obviously it's, renovated, but I think it's still there. I think that's where it opened, was in Hamilton. The very first Tim Hortons was in Hamilton. I wonder if I've been to it. I've been to a few Tim Hortons in Hamilton. I wonder if I've been to it and not even known. Maybe. I don't know. No idea. Hey, Richie Rich says, I live in Buffalo my whole life, professional hockey player. Yeah, Richie Rich, the Buffalo Sabers are my favorite hockey team. They've been my favorite team since Tom Barrasso was their goalie. So that's going back to 84, 85, 86. They've never won the Stanley Cup. Been in it twice against the Flyers in 75, I think. And of course against the Dallas Stars, Brett Hall, in 99. They've never won the Cup. They've been close a couple of times. Haven't won it. But yeah, the Buffalo Sabres are my favorite hockey team. Always have been. Some people I think are surprised to hear that because I'm from Toronto. I was born here. I live here now. And I do like the Leafs. I don't, hate the Leafs, but no, I'm a Buffalo Sabres fan through and through. Will be till the very end. And hopefully they'll be able to, in my lifetime, get back into the playoffs. I don't want to think about the Stanley Cup yet. Let's just get back into the playoffs. I hope they win the Stanley Cup. I would love to see them win the Cup. I don't want to die and, Jesus, come on, Buffalo. Come on. Oh, and Rick, Rick Jeanneret, who, of course, I'm sure you know, the former play-by-play, one of the great play-by-play announcers in the history of sports, period. He's since retired now. He just retired last year, but not just in hockey, one of the great play-by-play sports announcers in the history of sports, period. He called fights, like when a hockey fight would break out, it sounded like it was fucking a WWE match. It was fucking amazing. He's like 70, 80 something now. He's since retired. But his son, Chris Jeanneret, was my radio professor in college. So I went to college, to Niagara College in Welland, Ontario. And Welland, of course, is just, a hop, skip, and a jump away from Buffalo, across the border here in Ontario. And his son, Chris, who I think is still there. I think he's still a radio professor. He was my radio professor in college, because my first year I was there, I took radio, television, and film. And so one of Rick Jenneret's famous calls, I'm sure if you live in Buffalo, you know this. He's Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. You know what I'm talking about, right? So I did that when I was on the college radio station. He was listening, and I did that. And because I was doing the sports, and I did the whole, Mayday. I did the whole shtick, and he didn't seem like he was happy about it. It was affection, man. I was like, Chris, I love your dad. I said, the Sabres are my favorite team. I'm just having fun. He was a bit stiff. Now, I don't know if he's still stiff. I found him kind of stiff. Chris, if you're watching, hope you're doing well. Andrew Stevens sends in $5 and says, as Frank Riker would say, for the sexy MFers in the chats. Thank you very much, Andrew. I really appreciate that, man. Yeah, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that very much. Very much. Creepend666 says, Dave, you traitor. Go Leafs, go. I like the Leafs. I'm not one of those people that hates the Leafs. I actually like the Leafs when they're not playing Buffalo. If they're playing Buffalo, I hope they die a miserable death. But the last number of years, I've been rooting for the Leafs, because the Sabres I don't think the Sabres have been in the playoffs in over 10 years. Now, I know they're knocking on the door this year. Like, they're in that wild. I wish the NHL would go back to the old way of how you get into the playoffs. Anyway, there's a wild card now in the NHL. There's been for, a couple of years, but there never used to be, I don't think, anyway. So I'm getting used to this, but the Sabres are in a sort of a wild card spot, which is kind of cool, or at least on the door of being in one. So they're close, but they're just still not good enough. Now they're better. They are better, and they got some nice young talent. But they're just, I don't know if it's goalie or coach. Jesus, the Sabres have been through more coaches in the last 10 years than I've gone through toilet paper. Swear to God. Like, it's insane. And I understand you don't want to, do another coaching change. When Bruce Boudreau became available, there was part of me that was like, oh, maybe you should fucking get Bruce, But I understand. I think it's just that, what's his face now, the coach? I forget his name. He just doesn't seem charismatic to me. Not that you have to be a good coach. I just wish he had more life to him, Wake up. Anyway, yeah. We'll see, man. We'll see. I just hope if the Leafs make the playoffs this year, which they should, no problem, get past the first round. They cannot not make it out of the first round again. They just can't. Dubas's job is on the line too. Nighttime sends in $2, says, do they still fight in hockey? I used to KO dudes. Do they still fight? Yes. Well, yeah, fighting is not... Okay. Yes, of course they do. Is it allowed? Well, technically no, because you are given a 5-minute penalty. So it's not like it's... But then again, in some sports, if you fight, you're ejected from the game and you're suspended and all that. So it's allowed to the point where it's a part of hockey, yes. But you are still penalized. You get a 5-minute penalty. And depending on what happens in the fight, there's a lot of variables that can happen too, right? If you come off the bench, when you're not supposed to, if there's depending on what happens, you can get 5 minutes for fighting in a game misconduct too, where you're kicked out of the game. It all depends, right? That's at the discretion of the referees. But yes, there is still fighting in hockey. But it's not as celebrated as it once was years ago. Like there used to be enforcers, and there still are a little bit, but years ago, there used to be enforcers where their entire job was just to fight. I mean, really, that was their job. And nowadays, because of the advancements in healthcare and knowing what fighting can do and knowing how, the concussions and, the effects it has on the brain, it's not as celebrated or encouraged or promoted as much as it was, say, years ago. But you can't take fighting out of hockey. So people still fight. There are still tough guys, but the era of the enforcer, is becoming less and less now than it was, say, even just 10 years ago or 15 years ago. But if you go back and watch some like hockey fights from the 80s and 90s, fuck. Crazy shit. All right, folks, listen, that's going to do it for this Saturday night hangout, this Saturday night Q&A, hanging out with you guys. I really appreciate you tuning in and hanging out with me here on this Saturday night. Thank you to all the super chats that came in. Really appreciate that very much. Thank you, of course, to my amazing moderators, Frank Riker, Tap of the Short, Darren Sands, Chris Baber, Andrew Stevens, and Cody Snyder. I really appreciate you guys being my mods and keeping things rocking here on the channel and making sure that everything is all right. I, of course, will be back Monday night at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for episode 184 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit now. We're up to episode 184, and we're going to be talking about the Battle of the Part 4s, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, and Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. The Battle of the Part 4s. Last week, it was the battle of two fan favorites, Elm Street 3 and Friday 6, and now it's the battle of two more fan favorites, but the battles of the Part 4s. It's going to be a good episode. Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, Monday night, 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't you miss it. If you want to follow me on social media and you're not already, what are you doing? Follow me on social media. There are my links right there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. All my links are in the description. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. That's going to do it for me. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you soon. Alrighty. Cheers.